I don't care who you are, get a licensed certified home inspector, get your own certified building inspectors, get licensed contractors to check things out.
This is Las Vegas Real Estate Now with local real estate expert Harvey Blankfeld.
The sellers of the property, zoned residential, they were selling the property in its present condition as is. Okay? Which basically means, look, we're not warranting the property, guaranteeing, and they disclosed a lot of things in the SRPD, the Seller's Real Property Disclosure Form. They marked a lot of yeses.
Wow. Okay.
A lot of yeses.
Okay. So the buyer was willing to accept it under those terms?
Yes. These buyers were not the naive or the unsophisticated or a first-time home buyer. These were experienced house flippers.
Okay.
All right. But in my view, even the experienced house flippers can make mistakes.
How about that?
Yes.
Yes, we've seen that before.
Okay. Well, maybe you'll want to weigh in on that too. But here's the thing about this particular case. On that Seller's Real Property Disclosure Form, it asks the sellers that if you mark any yes answer, at the bottom of each page it says that you must provide a fully detailed explanation.
Right.
And that goes on to page 3.
Correct.
These sellers did not do that.
Oh.
They didn't provide any real explanation.
No written explanations.
Well, no, not to any of the yeses. They did disclose. That
they checked yes boxes, but they didn't tell you what it was about.
And they, in my view, they met their statutory requirement of disclosure.
Right.
But there's no fully detailed explanations to anything.
Okay.
The sellers simply say, something to the effect there's a lot more problems than that we may not even know about because we've heard about them, and we haven't even visited the property in 3 months.
Okay.
So we're selling the property as is.
Okay.
All right. So the question is the seller in violation of any law or regulation or statute with respect to failing to provide full details? And my personal opinion is no.
Okay.
There's nothing in the law that says they're required to fill that out.
Let me interject a thought here, because if my sellers fill out that SRPD and they mark a bunch of yeses, as their agent, I'm going to ask them to describe it in that area. Now, having said that, if they don't, but then the buyer accepts it without the explanation, I'm thinking the buyer accepted it without the explanation, right?
You make a very good point, because there's a difference in what the seller's obligation is and what your duty is in representing them.
Right.
So I would say that the seller, perhaps they didn't properly complete the form as requested, but there's nothing in the statute or regulation that requires them to do so. They made the disclosures.
Right.
We'll give them that credit. But you, as you pointed out, you as the listing agent, I believe, would have a duty of care to go back to them to ask them for full explanations.
And if I didn't do it, the buyer's agent representing the buyer should challenge it, say, wait a minute, I see all these check marks, but what's the details? The buyer's agent should jump in too.
I fully agree with that. But once the buyers accept that, then they've been remiss as far as I'm concerned. And you know what? There was no due diligence period in this cash fast close deal.
Wow.
Okay. However, just because there wasn't didn't mean that the buyers could still have canceled the contract pursuant to their rights under the SRPD.
Correct.
So once those disclosures were made, and if there were no, whether or not there were explanations or not, they could have canceled the contract without penalty.
So to clarify, the SRPD is the Seller's Real Property Disclosure. That's a form provided by the state that all sellers must complete to provide to the buyers. There are a few exceptions to that rule, but you can't you can't just say because I've never lived. That's not an exception. There are certain entities that don't have to do it, but if you own it, you basically you got to fill that out, and you got to fill out to the best of your knowledge.
That's right. So the problem is that this property was uninhabitable, and the buyers knew it as well.
Wow.
They did not need to have an official declaration by the city of Las Vegas to officially declare it as uninhabitable, even though there had been at one time a prior order and notice.
Wow.
Okay, that had been recorded on the property. And perhaps Rick can weigh in on that part, because you know what ended up happening? The city mistakenly took those recorded document off the property.
Oh, wow. So
they released them? They were actually
they did.
released them?
For some reason or another, they were mistakenly released, so it was not in a preliminary title report, Rick.
So as a buyer, you wouldn't know that necessarily that happened.
No, but the buyers knew it was uninhabitable themselves anyways. There was no water meter. They knew that. There was no gas meter.
That's a strike two.
There was no electrical box.
Oh, my goodness.
There was nothing.
Okay. So the seller's upset, or the buyer's upset with the seller because they didn't disclose that it was uninhabitable?
Even though they knew it was.
Well, clearly, yeah. I mean, just basic diligence shows you don't have water, you don't have electricity, you don't have gas.
Did they look at the property?
Yes, and see, the thing about it is even, as I mentioned, experienced flippers, or even just people who are not.
Right.
And they think they know. They over-rely upon themselves or their own contact, on why somebody, I don't care who you are, get a licensed certified home inspector, get your own certified building inspectors, get licensed contractors to check things out.
Yeah, I got to be honest. If I was looking at a property, I don't know if I would notice if there was no water meter or no gas meter, right? Like, do you ever go show a property and say, "Oh, there's the water meter"?
Well, no, but I would know that there's water running. I mean, we would know that because and it would be a couple of telltale signs. Number one are the plants alive?
Right.
That's the first thing. And secondly, electricity. Can I hit the lights on?
Can you hit the light switches? Things like that.
You would know. You may not have to research it. You would know there's no utilities here.
Right.
Now, you may not know that there's not even a possibility. You may not even know there's not the possibility of utilities there. but yeah, you would know, hey, there's no utilities here.
There was nothing there. The place was wide open.
Wow.
It was thrashed, okay? Unfortunately, there were homeless people at one time living in there. Even to the casual observer, let alone the experienced flipper, this place was dilapidated. Okay. The moral of the story is whether you're an experienced buyer, investor, first-time home buyer, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay? The bottom line is you should have a due diligence period. It gives you a way to get licensed inspectors, with necessary licensed contractors of other sorts. Get inspections done. Don't rely upon yourself, no matter what that may be.